Just think about it. If you, like today, say we were a young race as humans. The human race was just started essentially when all of us were born. Some of you got here earlier and some of you later, but we're it. And we realized that we're going to start getting really old because we're watching it, you know. And so we're planning for it. And so we're the equivalent to Congress. We're the equivalent to everything because we're it. And if you took 10 people from among us and said, okay, let's come up with the idea of how we're going to handle this because we're getting evidence that people are going to need help, right? If that group went off and came back to present to you and said, okay, here's what we think. Let's get really dark spaces and let's hire really nice people and make them do things that they kind of don't really want to do in that way. And let's have people get up starting at 5:30 in 15-minute increments. And let's give them food that they don't necessarily want to eat. And then let's create big, huge bathtubs that look like outer space vehicles that have hydraulic chairs that lift them naked 7 feet in the air and swivel and do a dunk. What do you think? You know, you guys are going to go, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. We're not doing that. Okay? So we inherited this. So really what it's about isn't to sit and feel bad about what we've done. It's that we've inherited and we were born at a time. Think about this. It's about when you were born. Like my parents, your parents, my dad didn't ask to be born in a time when, and my mom where they had nothing during a depression, and that then my dad would have to go off to the war and nearly lose his life. And my mom didn't ask to lose her first husband, who was executed by the Nazis. My great-grandmother didn't ask to be born at a time when she'd have to ride a buckboard of a covered wagon from Iowa to Oklahoma in the land rush, and I'll bet it wasn't comfortable. Nobody asked to be born when they're born. We just rise or we don't to the times in which we're born. And the time that we're born is that there was a system that fundamentally none of us think is a great idea. We've been indoctrinated by it. But if we stop and think about it, it's nothing that we would want for ourselves or the people we love, and we inherited that. And the time we're born is that we're able to bequeath, create something different and bequeath it. That's the time we're born. We didn't ask for that either. But it's the time we're born. It's the time in which you were able to be indoctrinated but also get background so that you're the most qualified in your town to take what you have learned and make sure you know what needs to go forward and what needs to stay back. And that you have an empty canvas where you can create for Cedar Falls and for the state of Iowa the way we really want to do it. And we now know that there's a way to financially do that. And there's a way to organize ourselves differently. That's what we're talking about. And every stakeholder from the community that is involved with this organization is represented here, and together you're going to do it. I remember when we started, we're going to eat whatever we want, whenever we want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's going to be made in the kitchen. That was big. That was big. It's still big. And I remember in the special care household where it's like, how will they know when to eat? Well, usually there's some indicator. But we pay very close attention. And I remember the first day that we literally opened that up. And one of the guys came in, he slept till 10:30. And he got up and he came out in his robe. Didn't remember anybody's name, not even his own. He goes, "What's for breakfast?" And Sherry said, "Whatever you want. What do you want?" And it took her 10 minutes for him to identify what he'd like to eat. But that's what he got. And then he finished breakfast and kind of wandered into the living room area. And then about 10 minutes later, he came back in. He said, "What's for breakfast?" And Sherry said, "Well, whatever you'd like." He ate 3 breakfasts that day. You know, and I remember the first time I told that story, people go, "Are you saying, what does this do to our food costs?" Well, it doesn't raise it a bit. In fact, it lowers a little. You know why? Because 75% of it isn't going in the dumpster. Do you know how much food goes in that slot bin? Because people don't want to eat it? It's not going to cost you anymore. But it's resident-directed life. That people will get up, not just get up in the morning, but they lead lives.